bright future. Every student matters.
Hi students, welcome to this session. In this session, we are going to start with a new chapter, that is nutrition in plants. We are going to talk about how do plants obtain their nutrition. We've already studied in class 6 that why is nutrition important. We talked about food and the importance of it, right? We saw that all the living organisms need food. And as we know that plants are living organisms, right? So they also require nutrition for the various activities that are going on in its body, right? So in this particular chapter, we are going to talk about the different food materials in this chapter, we are going to talk about the different food materials that the plants synthesize and how do they do it, right? And also we are going to talk about the modes of nutrition. First of all, we all know that all the living organisms require food. The specialty with plants is that they can synthesize their own food and the animals depend on it. There are two ways in which the animals depend on it. They get the food from the plants or the animals they eat, right? Some of the animals eat plants, whereas other eats the animal that eat plants, right? So in this particular chapter, we are going to talk about the importance of plants. Now let's talk about the nutrients. We know that carbohydrate, protein, fat and vitamins and minerals are the important components of the food. These components of the food will give us energy, they help in the growth, they help in repair of the body, right? And these components of the food are called as the nutrients, right? These are necessary for our body, right? So in this way, the nutrition, when we talk about, it is the mode of obtaining food and utilization of food by an organism. Now, when we talk about organism, it also includes the plants, right? So, in what ways do plants obtain their food and how the utilization takes place? When we talk about the utilization, students, utilization is done in the similar way as it is done in the other living organisms. That is, the food is utilized for growth, right? Now, so when we talk about nutrition in plants, we will talk about mode of nutrition. What do we understand by that and how many types of mode of nutrition do we observe in our environment? Now over here, Buju wants to know that how do plants prepare their own food? Now it's a very valid question. We have already stated that plants are the organisms which are capable of making their own food, right? And how do they do it? The plants have two modes of nutrition. One is autotrophic and other is heterotrophic, right? So first one is the autotrophic, like this. The nutrition in plants is further divided into two modes. One is the autotrophic mode and other is the heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now plants make their own food with the help of the raw materials they find in the surrounding. What are these raw materials? The raw materials are carbon dioxide, your sunlight, water. All of these things are found in the environment, and with the help of these things, the plant is able to make their own food, and hence these are called as the autotrophs, right? So in this way, plants act as autotrophs. Now here we have a question, that is, Paheli wants to know why our body cannot make food from carbon dioxide, water, minerals like plants do. Now, like I said, there are two modes. One is the autotrophic and other is the heterotrophic. Autotrophic mode is where the plant is able to make its own food, whereas when we talk about the autotrophic mode, in this the animals are actually depending on the plants for their food either directly or indirectly, right? So when we talk about the animals, so how do they depend on the food? How do they depend on the plant indirectly is that first of all, there is a plant which is eaten by a herbivorous, right? That means like animal like deer, animal like cow. Then say a lion eats this herbivorous animal. Let's say it's a deer, right? So in this way we see that deer is directly dependent on the plant, whereas lion is indirectly dependent on the plant, right? So this is how we see The autotrophic mode of nutrition is where the organism is not able to make their own food and they are dependent on the plant directly or indirectly, right? Now, coming back to the question that, so Paheli asked that why can we not make food like plants do? So the answer to this question is that we are not able to synthesize our own food is because of the lack of this green color, right? This green color is present in the plants that because of a pigment called as the chlorophyll. We are going to talk about the importance of this pigment in detail when we talk about the autotrophic mode of nutrition in detail. For now, it is important for us to understand that in autotrophic mode of nutrition, the plants are able to synthesize their own food using carbon dioxide, water and sunlight. And because these are green in color, hence they are able to make their own food. Now let's understand the heterotrophic mode in plants as well. So heterotrophic mode, like I said, is the mode where the organism is dependent on other organisms. So here you can see this yellow colored fibers which you are able to see are actually a plant that is dependent on this particular green plant for its food, right? Because it is not green in color, it is not able to make its own food, right? This is a parasite. We are going to talk about this particular mode in detail in the next sections, right? For now, it's important for us to understand that heterotrophic mode of nutrition is also seen in plants. It is not restricted to animals only. Till now, we have been talking about heterotrophs, and we always say that heterotrophs are the animals which are directly or indirectly dependent on the plants. But it is important to understand that there are certain plants which are also dependent on other plants for their food, and we are going to understand this type of nutrition in detail in this particular chapter. So, what we have studied today is about the autotrophic mode of nutrition, that why do we call it as autotrophic mode of nutrition, what is it, and what is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Right? I hope you were able to understand both of these nutrition, and you were able to understand that plants also show heterotrophic mode of nutrition, which we are going to discuss in detail. Now let's move on and answer some questions.